Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of, and like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continued long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast.
Lip tint, gloss situation.
Turtleneck. Sarah, I had to do some adorning of myself to prepare for today's recording because all of it just is. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to at least look digestible to people as I talk about this
Horrible
real life horror.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing your homework. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested.
You've been keeping up, I feel.
I mean, I have been. You know me. This is what I do. But here's what I've been struggling with is there's this mix of real shit, right? That's like coming out and it's terrible. But then there's also people who are either AIing shit, which is not helping.
Ugh, not
or
at
then
all.
B, like really dumb sleuthing that like doesn't make any sense. Like people just like jumping to really bizarre conclusions about things when it's like there's real horrors. And then there's like one of them was a picture of like a bust of a woman's chest in a garbage bag. And all these people were like, it's a dead body. And it's like, it's clearly a bronze sculpture. And then these people were like, no, like, look, it has collarbones. Like sculptures don't have bones. And then people were like, dude,
what?
They do if you sculpt them with that detail. And they were like, oh. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Like people are so
God.
fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I've really been struggling with like what is real and what isn't real. That's
Yeah,
where I've kind of been like a little derailed on my Epstein files updating because I've just been like, what is this crazy ass aluminum foil hat shit? But then I told Carl, I feel like we're living in aluminum foil hat days and I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's all so crazy. It sounds fake. Like it doesn't sound believable because it's so horrible.
Well, and we have spent how many years at this point just reading horrible thing after horrible thing about like, not even horrible thing, just like the president said what? Like that this is real world. This is what's actually happening. So there's been so much, I feel, of that already happening where this is just another thing that really feels like brain breaking to really like sit with and face and digest because and I've truly been seeing so many comments like that as I've been doing like this week-long research project of people like saying I don't even know how to process this information. And I think that's so valid. And I think that's why a lot of people, myself included, kind of kept all of this at bay for as long as I could. And then within this like last batch of released documents, like just reading that specifically about the quote unquote calendar girls, I just was like, all right, we have to learn this to then know how to respond, right?
Yes. You know, I saw a good post from somebody the other day that was like, but also the men need to be learning this.
Yeah.
The men need to be reading these things and having these discussions because I feel like the way that this always seems to go, and maybe it's just that women are more like vocal about it on social or something, but I just feel like I don't see a lot of dudes that I know talking about the fucking Epstein files.
I will say that on my Facebook, at least, there's been a handful, I would say, which 5 or less, that I have seen, like, have been posting about the Epstein files, and when usually they like went in, they're just like posting some like bullshit, funny fart joke meme or something like that, you know. So I do feel, let's face it, what are guys posting these days? I do feel like, and even like at work, this was a woman, but at work, over the weekend, I was talking to someone and was like, how you doing? And she was just very honest, like, I've been reading so much about the Epstein files and so like, and I have a kid. And so my brain is just like, I'm just not really all there right now. And I was like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. So I feel like more people are being willing to say, this has pushed me beyond a certain comfort level where now I'm going to kind of risk myself a little bit. Like there's a spectrum of risk, right? But yeah, I feel
Sure.
like people who are speaking out right now, who aren't afraid of talking about how uncomfortable reading all about this sexual abuse, like how that makes them feel, but it is not stopping them from talking about it or acknowledging that abuse has happened and is happening and that abusers are just free, living their lives, business as usual. What the
Running
fuck?
our country.
Running our country and
Diana,
other countries.
I literally was laying in bed the other night and I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that we pay taxes to the people who are on the Epstein list. What? Like, I was like, I said to Carl, like, what? I don't. Like, I'm not an anti-tax person. Taxes pay for roads and they pay for fire departments and like,
And
you know what I mean,
parks.
infrastructure and parks and public services, which are all being gutted by these psychos. But like, I'm not anti that, but it is a really fucked up thing when you stop and think about like these sons of fucking bitches, dude. Like I can't. It's like it is like you said. Like it is not comprehensible. Like and also that nothing is happening and nothing has happened, and the government has had these files. Like we're all upset that they haven't been arrested in 1 week because we all now have access to like what 4% of it or something. But those motherfuckers have had this for 20 years, 15 years. How long have they had these records? Like
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll get into that.
it's
We'll get
yes,
into the
tell
timeline.
Diana, please start with your presentation. Where would you like to start?
Okay, let me backtrack. Y'all, you know me by now. I'm a very open book, and part of that is because I know how great it feels to be able to relate to someone and be like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. It's not just me. I'm not a weirdo for thinking this way. So I've been talking a lot with my therapist, just exploring what it means for me to be neurodivergent and kind of like other ways that that shows up in my life. And something that I've really realized is that it takes me a while to process information and really like learn it, and not memorize it or not like just react to it because it seems like the right way to react, but like really like know genuinely how to respond to something. And so as I mentioned, with this last release of the Epstein files, I was like, okay, let me orient myself to like when all of this started. Like what was happening in my life when I first heard about like the Epstein files. And so I decided to try to do some research that could give me a timeline of like, important dates or whatever. So my main sources for the information that we'll talk about today are the two Netflix documentaries, Filthy Rich. One of them is about Epstein and the other one is about Ghislaine Maxwell. Side note, I know how to say that bitch's name, and I am all about saying people's name properly, but I'm not going to dignify her by saying her name properly. So I'm going to say Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine has now been given a puppy in prison because she was lonely. Abused
Take the puppies away from her. And
she doesn't deserve
the extra
puppies.
toilet paper that she's getting access to as well is the extra toilet paper. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so the Filthy Rich documentaries on Netflix, really good information in those documentaries. And I do remember also like early 2020s, when I would see information about Jeffrey Epstein, I would tell myself that like, oh, reading anything about him or like watching these documentaries or, watching any kind of videos about him is just giving him power and giving him attention. That's nuts because it's the opposite. It is the opposite. Not ignoring it, pulling an ostrich and burying your head in the sand. That is what gives abusers and predators and exploiters power. So,
dude, but I've had people say that to me about our abuser. Oh, you're putting so much energy into him with the website and the podcast, and it's like, no, like I am putting a shitload of energy into informing other people to stay away from a fucking predator. So I don't think you're alone in that thought process sometimes. I think it's because it's icky and no one wants to think about it.
It
And so
is.
it's nice to find a way to justify not having to look at it.
And it is easy to just be like, I'm not ready. And that was part of it for me too. As I was really looking back at the timeline of like even in 2021 when
Mm.
Ghislaine Maxwell was going through her trials, that was by the year of my aha moment, like
Mhm.
I think too, part of why it's been hard for me to really open up these articles and like read them fully and check out the file and like all of it has been because still very much processing my own abuse. And so, all this to say, I think there's a lot of reasons why it's easy to check out of reading specifically about the quote unquote Epstein files. And I'm not saying quote unquote Epstein files like they don't exist. I just mean there's so much behind just those three words
Mhm.
because it's not even just Jeffrey Epstein. It's not even just Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's not just but so there's so much behind the Epstein files. And I
Sure.
just feel within myself that it is time to actually bear witness to it, to again be informed. You can't take action, like effective action, without being informed. So at the root, really, like when you remove all the names, what this issue is, what the Epstein files is a story about probably in history the world's largest international sex trafficking ring. Sarah, do
Mhm.
you think the average person knows what human trafficking means?
I think more so now than ever, you know what I mean? Because like, you even go out to, like, gas stations and airports, and there's signage everywhere about human trafficking, like, in the bathrooms, and, I think it's something that people have a lot more understanding of, but I would say it's probably like grooming, where it's like, I know what it means kind of, but I probably don't most people probably don't understand, like, the nuances of it, or they think it's very, like, it only happens to certain people, and it only happens in other countries, and it only happens to girls, and blah, 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 right? Like, I'm sure most of us have just kind of pre-assumed facts, you know? And I was even saying to Carl at breakfast the other day, because I bring up the Epstein files at breakfast because I'm the most fun wife in the world. Literally this weekend, I thought, Sarah, wait at least until 9 a.m. Let's just give it a couple hours. Like, let's just chill out for a little while.
Your husband knows who the fuck he married, okay? He loves
It's
you.
no, it's true. But I mean, like, I also am trying to be mindful of, like, his mental health, and like we're all trying to get through this fucking shit storm, and we have to take breaks. But, I said to him, I was like, what I've never really thought about is what happens. Like, you think about people being human trafficked. So you think about them being abducted or kidnapped, and you think about the horrors of them being moved around the world and being, physically and sexually and emotionally, all kinds, every way possible abused. But I was like, but where did they all go? And I just sat there and I was like, but where do they go? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, but where do they go? Like, they're not little girls forever. Like, are they just kept for their whole lives in human trafficking? Do they get murdered? Like, do they all just end up on drugs? Where did these people go? And I just like couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, where are all of these people? Like you think of human trafficking,
Yeah.
but it's just like, yeah, there's all these layers to it that you don't like stop to think about, of like, oh my God, where are those hundreds of thousands of people?
Yeah.
Are those the people
Yeah,
living on our
totally.
streets addicted to fentanyl?
I've worked in social services. I specifically worked for a couple nonprofits funded by the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and worked mainly with unaccompanied minors. Who are unaccompanied minors? They're the kids that come to United States from different countries by themselves. And because of that, of course, people who works with that population had to receive training on human trafficking and how to spot it, the warning signs,
Mhm.
who makes up who gets trafficked. And the population that is most likely to get trafficked are young boys for
Mm.
labor purposes. That is the highest population of people who sometimes people refer to human trafficking as modern day slavery.
Mhm.
Some examples that I saw while working for these nonprofits are kids who arrive to the States and are told by their sponsor, the person who like takes them in, oh, well, I paid for your trip here, so now you have to work for me until you pay that off.
Indentured servitude.
Yes, exactly. And so I just think it's important because to like really break down what human trafficking is, and that there is different kind of trafficking, and that it isn't just people from other countries, it's happening. It happens everywhere. And okay, so there's so much to get into, and we're not going to cover everything in depth.
You and I are not going to dissect every aspect of the world's largest human trafficking ring. Okay.
So today, what I imagine or am envisioning is that I want to share some background info. Also want to talk about, and I'm going to use the legal term victim, because some of the victims that I'll be talking about sadly did not survive.
Yeah.
So I do want to share some victim stories and statements. I do want to spend a good chunk of time, even if it's its own episode, talking about like realistically what we can do, like what Diana can do, what you, Sarah, can do, what Diana and Sarah can do together. What realistically can we do?
I think that's a great thing to talk about, because I think that is where we are all stuck.
Yes.
Like with everything, with ICE, with the environment, with, I mean, like everything is really bad. Like I don't know how else to say it. Everything is really, really fucking dark, dude. Like it's bad. And I feel like so many people want to take action, and they want to help, or they want to be able to process it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm excited to hear what thoughts you have on what anybody can do. Cause fuck, man, it's feeling like, get out your marshmallows and watch it all burn down is kind of the vibe. So.
And I mean, that's an option.
Listen, if we're talking about the government burning down and like complete revolution, country reset, I'm not against it. Like, I don't think it's the worst idea. Like, how do you hold these pedophiles accountable when they're running the fucking country? Like, they are the criminal justice system.
But there are more of us. And
this is very true.
Yeah. We could burn it down.
But that's where you need to they gotta get got a little bit.
Yes.
I'm not saying that people should be killed. I'm saying
no.
Through voting. No. I'm saying through civil act, civil unrest.
Yes. Revolution, civil unrest. I agree. I am not against burning it all down and starting something new. I am not going to lead that because I don't even know how to begin. I mean, send me a newsletter if anyone of you, everyone out there, like starts a group or something, but
she's like, I'll donate to your cause.
Yes. But for now, this is the lane that I feel, Sarah, that we're doing some kind of good work, right? Sure. We're educating, mainly millennials, our demographic, mainly millennials and Gen.
We've been
Gen
through
Xers.
Some shit. We
need
a place to complain as a generation. All right.
And
well, let's
support each other and act. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say, do not listen to this episode around kids, because I'm going to read some of the stuff that's in the files. I don't know, use your own discretion if you listen to other Blooming After Grooming episodes around kids, but this one I would not. So just want to say that at the top. Okay. So the recent release that I had mentioned that kind of really just like slapped me awake and was like, come on, we got to do this. I'm going to read what I read. This is from a document from the Epstein files that includes statements from victims who were deposed. What does it mean to be deposed? Testifying under oath out of court. Okay. So this was a claim. And the victim said, Donald Trump, the president, had parties at Mar-a-Lago called Calendar Girls. Jeffrey Epstein would bring the children in, and Trump would auction them off. He measured the children's vulva and vaginas by entering a finger and rated the children on tightness. The guests were older men and included Elon Musk, Don Jr., Trump, Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump were there. Attorney Alan Dershowitz was also there with attorney Bob Shapiro. We were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald J. Trump, forced to allow them to penetrate us. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. And again, this is one person testifying against powerful people.
Like the most powerful people.
The most powerful people. I just thought that anyone would believe this is a lie, is why I say that.
There's like a third of our country that believes that that is a lie because they are in a cult. And he literally could do anything. Anything.
Yeah.
And they would not care because they are incapable of just admitting that they got duped and then they drank the Kool-Aid, man, and they voted for a bad dude. Like that's
even though weren't they the ones that were like Hillary Clinton's abusing kids at this pizza restaurant?
Yep.
And like fucking swarmed that pizza restaurant with guns.
Yes. And these are the same people that, you know, how many children, the number one cause of death of children in America is gun violence. And they refuse to do gun reform. And then when fucking ICE executed Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, then all of a sudden it's his fault because he had a gun. It doesn't matter. Like they don't have
no sense.
Any morals. They will agree with whoever agrees with them or they're being told to agree with. It's wild. Like it's not about protecting kids. It's not. And it never has been. And same thing of all the anti-trans shit and obsessing over who's in whose bathrooms because you know, oh, these trans people are going to sexually assault children in these bathrooms. And then you're being told that the president that you voted for, who is a convicted sex offender, has been found guilty of over 30 felonies and is named in the Epstein files over 6,000 fucking times. It's fine. It's indefensible, dude. I can't handle it. Like it makes me so mad. Like it's this situation makes me hope that God is real so that hell is real. It makes me hope that hell is real so that people like him and all the other motherfuckers on that list burn in eternity. That like that's how angry I am. It makes me want to believe in God. And if you know Sarah, that's a big statement.
Oh my God.
Anyways, sorry.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
That's okay. Okay, so timeline time. As we go through this timeline, something that I kept thinking about, the whole point of me doing all this research was like to really orient myself to this issue. So I was trying to think of like, okay, where was I? How was I getting information? So I encourage other people to do the same. Beginning in 1996, Diana was 6 years old. 1996. A woman in her mid-20s named Maria Farmer reports a sex crime to the New York Police Department, but is told that because the abuse that she is reporting happened in multiple states, she has to report that to the FBI because that's what they do. So Maria reports to the FBI, and she feels like the person who took her report believes her, and she remembers feeling hopeful after making her report. But then she never hears back. So 5 years later, in 2001, Jeffrey Epstein donates about $100,000 in equipment to the Palm Beach Police Department in Florida. Now, I include this because I think it's important to show that he really believed he could use money and power to buy the cooperation of the police department. And this doesn't just happen in Palm Beach.
He did, but he did. It's not just that he believed. Motherfucker, he did.
He right, but yes, exactly. He did. And other wealthy people do. So in 2003, the internet was a thing, but I would say people were still not really using it to get like information. I mean, yes, but not the way that
It
we
was
do today,
pre-smartphone. It was pre-smartphone.
Yes.
I feel like
Thank
smartphone
you.
is really when it all pivoted as far as like how much we're all consuming. Before that, it was like, I gotta go get my dusty ass desktop booted up, my gateway, my PC,
Yeah.
and like AOL was somebody for a while and then log off. And I
And it
also
was
can't
just
receive
harder.
phone calls when you're on the internet.
Yes, exactly. Or it'll sound like a baby dinosaur. Um, it was also just harder, yeah, to get information about a particular thing. And so in 2003, not a lot was known about Jeffrey Epstein at all. A little bit was known in New York that
Mhm.
he came from new money. He had a lot of money. He manages money for a lot of wealthy people, blah, blah, blah. But like no one really knew anything about him. And so a journalist by the name of Vicky Ward gets assigned a story to like cover this rich playboy guy. And immediately, and she works for Vanity Fair, I should say, at the time in 2003. So immediately she starts hearing rumors about how he is kind of creepy and inappropriate. And Vicky eventually talks to Maria Farmer and Annie Farmer. So Maria is the one who made the report to the FBI in
Mhm.
1996. And they are willing to go on record and name Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So Vicky is like changing the story. This is a completely new story now.
Mhm.
Also, Annie Farmer, I believe, was 17 when she was sexually abused by both Epstein and Maxwell. So it's like it's not, I don't want to say not just sexual abuse, but it's sexual abuse involving a minor,
Mhm.
a teenager. Jeffrey Epstein then threatens Vicky Ward and tells her, and she's pregnant with twins at the time, and he tells her, if I don't like this piece, it's going to be really bad for you and your family. Where are you giving birth? I know all the doctors and all the hospitals, so it doesn't matter if you don't tell me. I'll find out. The editor of Vanity Fair found a cat head in his yard and
Gross.
a bullet on his front doorstep. So, the story that ends up getting published, and you can still find it in the Vanity Fair archive, is just the social piece about
Mhm.
Jeffrey Epstein, nothing about his sexual creepy ways. So then also in 2003, the Palm Beach Police Department gets reports from neighbors about a large number of young women going in and out of his residence. But the police, and I don't know if they like checked IDs or were just like, hey, how old are you? But
Yeah.
they say that everyone that they talked to were adults, and so they couldn't do anything. And 2 years later, in 2005, a parent of a 14-year-old from West Palm Beach. So there's Palm Beach, which is like everyone with money, billionaires row is over there. And then there's like this long ass bridge that connects to the mainland, and that's West Palm Beach, and that's very working class. So a parent of a 14-year-old from West Palm Beach calls the PD with concerns, and eventually the special victims unit of the Palm Beach Police Department takes the case. The detective assigned to that case is Joseph Ricari, and he begins to find victims and interview them. He finds that some of them don't want to talk to him because they're afraid, obviously, of Jeffrey Epstein. He also says that some of them were still drinking the Kool-Aid and saying
Mhm.
stuff like, "Oh, Jeffrey Epstein saved my life. I'm so happy I met him. I'm in love with him." And then, so after about 7 months of an investigation in 2005, a search warrant is executed. But as you mentioned, Sarah, he was able to buy off the police department because it was very clear that this motherfucker had been tipped off. There were so many
Mhm.
things that were missing: computers, hard drives, surveillance cameras. Like they were still able to find some shit. And so in 2006, he is charged with a single felony count of solicitation of a prostitution. He is arrested and post bond. Basically, he was like slapped on the wrist for hiring a prostitute. Their words, not
Yes.
mine. And like that's not what happened at all. But that's the single charge that he got, and he threatens reporters, different news outlets to not cover the story. At this point in 2006 was a really like kind of a big year. for this case, because at this point it is known that there was evidence for unlawful sex with a minor, not just solicitation of prostitution. And the police chief, the Palm Beach police chief, Michael Reitner, is so offended and so aghast at this ruling that he personally writes letters to the families of the victims. And he says that he does not believe justice was sufficiently served and that the case is going to be referred to the FBI.
Well,
So,
good for him.
yes. And
that would be
this
so
guy,
frustrating. Like, if you did all this investigation and you know this person's a piece of shit. Like, yeah, I mean, my dad's a cop, and I feel like he's definitely had situations like that where he's like, God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, this person who's clearly a monster, who's clearly dangerous for society, isn't getting charged because of some, like, technical fucking issue with the way the paperwork was filed, or, some little, like, thing that went wrong, or just a jury, like, having their heads up their asses. And it would be really, really hard. Because, yeah, you work with those families and you get to know them, and you're giving them hope that there is going to be justice, and then you have to then like watch them get crushed when it doesn't happen. Like, yeah, it would be terrible.
And to be the chief of police and really like believe in the justice system and watch it just kind of like that illusion just kind of crumble before your eyes. I'm sure there were things that happened before that left him maybe a little jaded, but to the point, like they talk in the documentary, in the Filthy Rich documentary, that it's not common for chief of police to go above prosecutor's decision and to go to the FBI. So it was really big that he did this. So FBI takes over, and they realize that 10 years before, in 1996, Maria Farmer had made a report about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, about their abuse at the hands of those two. And then, so finally, 10 years later, Maria Farmer and Annie Farmer are both interviewed by the FBI. So it's 2007, and okay, so I'm 17 in 2007. I have a phone, but it doesn't have internet. I'm writing for the school paper, so I'm finding information probably on Yahoo, right? Or like
Ask
I remember
Jeeves.
Jeez, yeah, bitch. So I remember too a lot of MSNBC in high school.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think one of my friends got me into MSNBC and NPR. I liked NPR in high school. But 2007, and the reason I say all this is because it seems like even in 2007, still not a lot, like a lot wasn't really known about him, even though he had this, like, so people knew that there was like weird stuff happening at his Palm Beach residence in Florida, but like nothing was really,
like
nothing
the public was not really aware.
Correct. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Sarah, please chime in anytime. Okay. So 2007, the FBI continues working on the case, and the U.S. attorney, so the FBI and the U.S. attorney are still working the case in 2007. But they are still maintaining a line of communication with the Palm Beach Police Department. And the agent on the case, I wish I remembered her name. I don't. I'm so sorry. But she puts together a really solid package of evidence for the federal government to now, like you've said, Sarah, hand it over on a silver platter. That's what this was, to the federal government, so that they could use that to charge Jeffrey Epstein. So federal prosecutors in 2007 prepare an indictment. An indictment is just like a official way to read off criminal charges to the perpetrator. So they're preparing for that. Chief of Police Reitner, who like wrote the letters and referred this case to the FBI, talks with the U.S. Attorney for Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, and he's like, please make sure that this case gets prosecuted. And then all of a sudden, there's a shift. And now all of a sudden, the FBI tells the Palm, I always want to say Panama Beach, tells the FBI, tells the Palm Beach Police Department that they are forbidden from talking to the police department And so the line of communication is closed. U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta meets with Epstein's lawyers for about a year, and then the indictment just falls apart. And so it's like already so much, like just even this little review of like 12 years, so much failure of justice has happened. The FBI doing nothing with Maria Farmer's report in 1996. What happened there? The single charge in 2006 for solicitation of prostitution. What the fuck? But then what follows is even more bigger level misjustice for real. So basically what happens, the government had been sitting on this report from that agent to prepare for the indictment for about 2 years. And then in 2008, it's like that report never happened. And
that sounds
the
familiar.
possibility
It doesn't exist.
It's like it didn't even happen.
Is.
And then all of a sudden, it's like the news is that that Epstein agreed to 18 months in jail. Like, what happened there?
Also, who gets to just do that? Like, oh, I'll just, you know what? I'll give you I'll do 8 months. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, who gets to just be like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I did it. I'll give you a couple months.
It's absurd to really break that down. Okay, let's really break this down, Sarah. There's evidence. There was evidence. There was everything. We just had to schedule the indictment. We just had to set a calendar meeting.
That goes to show you how much influence, how much connection he already had, right? That he was able to pull strings. And I mean, I've read a lot of articles and watched different documentaries that definitely say that that's how he was able to do this, is that he had these parties, he supplied these people, these rich, powerful people, and then documented them doing these things with these children, and then fucking blackmailed all of them so he could get them to
everywhere,
do whatever he wanted them to do. So of course, if you say, hey, high up in the FBI, this needs to go away, and if it doesn't, I'm going to release this video of you sexually assaulting a 10-year-old. That's going to make some shit go away.
Yep, exactly. Money, friends, connections. He had the connections. And so what did end up happening is something that you asked the question, why does he get to do that? How can anyone do that? No one should be able to do that because it is illegal, I found out. So let's talk about what did happen. The goddamn federal government protected him.
Yep.
He was given a plea deal, an illegal plea deal, thanks to Alex Acosta. And this deal included immunity from state and federal charges for himself and his conspirators.
In exchange for
lawyer going to jail for 18 months. Yes.
Doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. The lawyer in this documentary was like, I've never seen anything like this. What makes it okay? So secret talks illegally happened to actively keep victims in the dark so that they would not be able to get their day in court and testify.
Matt, remember how frustrating it was the 2 years that we had to navigate our abuser being held accountable, and nobody gave a shit about that guy. No one was helping him. And it was so frustrating and so excruciating, and everything went perfectly fine for the most part. I cannot imagine being a victim involved in this case. Because you're talking, Diana, either. I don't know if you've mathed that math, but the first incident you're talking about was 31 years ago.
1996?
Oh, I think it's in 95. 30 years ago.
Yes.
Think about that. If you had been that mode that you were in, that we were in for those 2 years, if you were in that mode for 30 years.
And this is why I think anyone who thinks that the survivors, the victims who have come forward are just lying,
you're fucking crazy.
You're fucking crazy. Or just ignorant.
Also,
so ignorant.
Also, you think somebody wants to go up and put a target on their fucking backs against the people on that fucking list if they don't have to?
No.
You're talking no. You get your ass killed. No joke.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about Epstein's jail time for those 18 months? Probably not, but I'm going to tell
Oh,
you.
I'm sure it
It was a
was
walk
a
in the
real
park.
hardship. Yeah.
He got so many privileges, including a bullshit work release, which allowed him to leave jail for 12 hours a day.
Oh, that's not
He
even being in jail. I said that word, jail. That's not even like being in jail.
No, it's
So
not been in jail.
he just slept at jail then.
He basically was staying at as they say in the documentary, a shitty motel room. Like he got to do whatever the fuck he wanted and then just like had to go to bed in a bad
God.
bed. So, and then he paid for deputies to be like his babysitters so that he could like be out and about anyway. So yeah, he did that for 18 months. So in 2009, he gets out and he's on probation. In 2009, now people know he is a sex offender. It's
Yes.
like, it's not just he was seeking a good time with a quote unquote hooker. Like, no, now it is known that he is a sex offender. Shocker, he would violate his probation daily. There
Mhm.
are at least 60 documentations of him violating his probation. And when the officer called to complain about this, the answer he was given was, "What would you like us to do? He's a celebrity." So he was just a pedophile allowed to violate his probation.
I really do feel like the early 2000s, man, was like a celebrity was like a whole other level than it is now.
So then in 2010, he throws a big party, and it seems like people are still willing to associate with him. And he just resumes business as usual, relatively unscathed. In 2011, Virginia Giuffre, may she rest in peace, names Ghislaine Maxwell publicly for the first time as one of her abusers. So in 2017, this is when I feel I started really hearing more about
Sure.
Epstein was
Yeah.
2017. And I know that's what people are saying, like, oh, well, these files have go back all the way back and whatever. And like, why are we just now hearing because of Trump? Sure, valid. But this is why, because Trump fucking nominated Alex Acosta's lying bitch
Mhm.
ass for labor secretary.
Well, dude, but
And because
that's also like saying what's his fucking ass in the Supreme Court who fucking date raped
Brett Kavanaugh.
the yes, right? And then people were like, "Well, where the fuck was her story before?" It's like, "Well, he wasn't running for the Supreme Court before.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it wasn't as important to know if Trump was a pedophile when he was just a corrupt businessman." I would argue it was important before, obviously, but like it's important now because the motherfucker has the access to the nuclear weapons. Like he has the ability to severely harm every citizen in the United States
Yes.
as well as every citizen anywhere else in the world. Like it matters more when someone has more power
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
because it makes them
Exactly.
more
And
dangerous.
on this note, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, Sarah, and listeners. I'm very curious to hear thoughts about this. Um, of course, there's people who are like, well, why didn't Obama push for anything and
Mhm.
whatever? Because in 2000, so Obama came into office 2008. So it was after the raid on the house and the first charge. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that people who are like, well, why didn't Obama do more? I think, how am I going to word this? I don't know what it's like to be Barack Obama, obviously, but I can't imagine being made responsible, being like forced or like put pressure on or whatever about the Epstein files while being the first black president and like having as a black man having to now carry that weight of justice for crimes that white men did.
Yeah.
And I'm
While
not
also having to
saying
share rooms with those white men that many of them are mad that you're even in that room.
for sure, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about like why he didn't do more or even like what that means, like what he could have done. But I've really been thinking a lot about Obama, as you know, I've told you about in a more recent episode. And like there's memes and videos of, going around of, like, guess who's not in the Epstein files? And then you see like Obama's picture, and then you see the comments of like, oh yeah, but he blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just think it's important to, like, from a racial equity lens and history, the idea that people are mad that a Black man, like, think of fucking, rest in peace again, Emmett Till, like,
Yep.
how many Black men have been lynched, were murdered for no reason. And like the idea that now he would have to be the one to, like, push for, I
Try
just,
to
like,
take
I
down
don't know. Yes.
Yeah, like he should have to be put responsible of trying to take down the most powerful, rich, influential white men in the world. And I also find it interesting that you don't see as many people throwing that in Biden's face, who also would have had the opportunity to do something about it, as he was our president for 4 years. So I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know enough about it, I guess, to have an opinion one way or another as far as like what access or awareness he would have had, or if it's just like, well, this was happening and he just should have known. If that's the reasoning, I think that's a little cuckoo, because you're like talking about someone who's supposed to be abreast of every single piece of information in the entire country all at the same time. Or if it was like, no, this is a legitimate thing that was put on his table and he walked away from it, that's very different. So I don't know enough about like what visibility he would or would not have had, especially that first term. Second term, I guess he probably would. Because when did Epstein die?
2019.
Oh, 2019. Okay. So he would have been way out by then. Yeah. So it's just like, that's the part of it of like, I don't have a clear enough understanding of like, what oversight he would have had on it to have much of an opinion. But I do think you make a good point, right? Which is just like, obviously race does have to play some part of it. And yeah, you're already in a hostile situation to some extent, being the first Black president of the United States of America. And then to be put in the position where it's like, oh, hey, by the way, all of these dudes are pedophiles and you should do something about it. I'd be like, oh God. Like, but at the same time, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I like Obama. I'm a big fan. Voted twice. Still get excited when I see him speaking. Like, I think he's a charming, classy dude,
I think I would cry if I met him. Like, I think he's the only
I'd shit a brick.
Fucking cry.
But yeah, I have a ton of respect for them. But I am also not like a crazy, MAGA head kind of person that just agrees with everything he does. He did many things during his presidency that, I don't super agree with. And I didn't agree then and I don't agree now. And yeah, and if he had the opportunity to do something about the Epstein files and didn't, yeah, that's fucking disappointing. Same with like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She did so much amazing work in her lifetime and she did so much for women and she was such a fucking badass. She also should have fucking retired when Obama was still president. So they could have fucking put someone in the Supreme Court who was a Democrat, or at least not a fucking date raping lunatic fucking conservative. And she fucked it up. Both of these things can be true. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Life is complicated and people contain multitudes. And sometimes some of those multitudes are turds, So I don't know.
I wanted to talk that through. Just wanted to talk that through. Okay. So yes, 2017 there's renewed attention on the Epstein case because Alex Acosta is nominated for labor secretary for Trump's first presidency. So when Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, Democrat, he was Hillary's vice president pick, 2016, I believe. He begins questioning Alex Acosta during this confirmation hearings for labor secretary. And he's basically asking, like, what was up with this plea deal? It's shady as fuck. And Acosta responds, this sentence makes no sense, but here we go. Based off evidence, the people in the prosecutor's office decided that it was determined that a deal that guaranteed some jail time and guaranteed other outcomes is a good thing.
Other
Based off
outcomes.
evidence, based off evidence, the people in the prosecutor's office decided that it was determined that a deal that guaranteed some jail time and guarantees other outcomes is a good thing. What the fuck does that mean?
I think it just means like we settled out of court, right? Like, and we figured him getting some jail time is better than him getting no jail time. But that is really weird and vague. And like other outcomes, what does that mean? Us getting money?
And people in the prosecutor's office decided? Who's people in the prosecutor's office? The more like, what the fuck does that mean that I'm getting at is, okay, so what you're saying, Alex Acosta, is that a decision was made that if we can at least get Epstein to serve 1.5 years in jail, is that like what is that what they thought based off evidence that they wouldn't be able to get any more than that? I find that very unlikely based off.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very
You know?
unlikely. Like, I mean, because you could say, well, if they didn't have enough to prosecute, then he wouldn't have taken a settlement. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if they're saying like we didn't have enough evidence to think that we were going to be able to get him like charged with something, but people do plea deals all the time. You know what I mean? That is a part of our justice system, which is that like you can not have a trial and you can be like, yeah, sure, fine, fuck it, let's do a plea deal, or I'll give you information on this person if you don't charge me with this shit. I mean, that happens all the time. They're talking about doing that with his fucking whatever fuck her name
Ghislaine
is.
Maxwell.
Ghislaine. I mean, they're talking about doing that with her right now. Like giving her a fucking plea deal, and I mean, sometimes it is very much, I think, the lesser of evils. But in this situation, it's like, okay, then what did he give you? Like, you're not, usually that's very much like, and in trade, he gave us the location of hidden bodies, or he gave us the name of the drug supplier, or like, you're getting to somebody higher up. But what did they get from him?
Yeah, I don't know. But like, I find it really, if the FBI had done this investigation and prepared to indict him, but I don't know. It's a bullshit response. This is how I'm taking it. So in 2018, the Miami Herald publishes a report about the 2008 plea deal that Jeffrey Epstein got with the help of Alex Acosta. So that brings new attention to the case and people start talking about it more. So as you mentioned, Sarah, yes, plea deals are a thing. That's part of the justice system. It's legal. What is not legal, and what a federal judge ended up ruling on, was that the secret meetings that they had violated the rights of the victims because of the Crime Victims' Right Act. So what the Crime Victims' Right Act says is that a victim of a crime has the right to confer with the prosecutor on the case before there's a resolution. So the victims never got to confer with the prosecutor because they didn't even know that these meetings were taking place. Like, all of this was happening in secret. And because of that, their rights were violated. So because of that, so that happened in 2019. A federal judge rules that the government entered into a conspiracy with Jeffrey Epstein to violate the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Not only did the government fail to inform the victims, but they actively misled them, and that is illegal. So this new ruling meant that now there could be a new hearing so that the victims could finally have their day in court to express their opposition to this ridiculous deal. Even though the deal had already taken place, they still get to come have their day in court. This also meant that a new investigation ensues. So a new investigation ensues in 2019, and the women are interviewed again. I thought about us and other people who have had to do this. I know, like, we've mentioned a few times on the podcast about just having to tell our story and what happened to us at least 3 different times. And for like Annie Farmer and Maria Farmer, by this time they had shared their story like at least 4 or 5 times, that we know of. It's just
and then whether or not the person that's interviewing you is trauma informed and shitty things they might be saying or weird questions they might be asking. Because it's, unfortunately, when you're being interviewed about that kind of stuff, it's like they have to ask you pretty explicit questions. And so it can get pretty heavy, obviously.
Right. Okay, so he's arrested in 2019 for sex trafficking. He's indicted on 2 counts with a maximum sentence of 45 years in jail. The 2 counts are conspiracy to commit sex trafficking and sex trafficking of minors. And so after that happens, Jeffrey Epstein in 2019 is believed to have committed suicide in prison. And I am not saying that to sound like a tinfoil person. I don't know.
That was going to be my question. Do you think he killed himself? I think both are very valuable. I think both are very believable. I think he seems like a spineless little bitch that would have killed himself to not have to face being held accountable, because that is what a lot of these pieces of shit do. We were warned about that when we came forward. We had, what was that, a police officer or somebody? Heads up, like, if you guys come forward, your abuser might kill himself. And we had to have a whole fucking conversation about if that was ours to carry or if that was ours to worry about and blah, 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 blah. So I don't think it's impossible, but I also feel like he was involved with so many powerful people and there was so much money involved. And it seems very clear that he was blackmailing a lot of these people, that it would not have been difficult for any of them to hire somebody to take that motherfucker out. Get out your Reynolds wrap, baby, because I think like I am tinfoil hat open on this one.
I don't think it's unreasonable. Also, the documentary does go into, there's a forensic professional looking at the bones, and he's looking specifically at a bone near the mandible. And he is saying that he's no longer with us. He was very, very old in this documentary. And so he was saying that in his entire career, he had never seen the mandible break in this way when it's a hanging, like, done with the neck leaning forward, which is how it's reported that he committed suicide, was that like he hung himself with like, and the force was like him moving forward. Anyway, so it's just, so the documentary goes into like why maybe that's not true, or like why the evidence, that the forensic evidence that could point to that this wasn't a suicide the way it was reported.
And it was immediate. I feel like when he died, it was immediate. Like everyone immediately was like, bullshit. Everybody like immediately was like, no, not believing it. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because the internet is just full of, oh God, so many theories about so many things.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess based off what I have read and seen and done research on, between him committing suicide and not committing suicide, I think he did not take his own life. But, and this is where I'm like, I'm not trying to be tinfoil person. I also toyed with the idea of maybe he faked it. Like he has the money to do some shit.
Oh, there's people who are now
he's still
sharing AI photos of him with like long hair, and it's like he's still out there, boo 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 boo, and it's like, I don't know, dude.
And you know what? Whatever, fuck it. Even if he is, good riddance, get eaten by a shark, whatever. Like there's more. We have more evidence for other things that we could do right now than waste energy on that. You know?
Yes.
But and I guess the other reason why I think he didn't fake it is that his brother, Mark Epstein, he is so skeptical that it was an actual suicide, that he's the one that hired the forensic scientist to take a second look at the autopsy, because he really doesn't believe that Epstein took his own life. So he must have seen, I'm assuming, a body to be like, okay, yeah, that's actually my brother. So if he's like, you know, putting in resources to investigate whether or not Epstein did take his own life, then I don't know. Who knows? Who the fuck knows? What we do know are the names of people in these files, and that there is enough evidence to at least start some investigations, which I think really is the next step. Which, okay, hold on. Back to the timeline. We're almost done. Okay, so after he is dead, Ghislaine Maxwell goes into hiding. In 2020, she is found
But
in New
see, if they
Hampshire.
murdered his ass, why would they not have murdered hers?
Isn't that why she went into hiding?
But she's in
She
jail.
probably thought she was gonna get
She's
murdered.
in jail, though. Like, right now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
I
if they
see.
got him in jail, wouldn't somebody have got her by now? Because that bitch knows everything.
Yeah.
She's got just as much information as he had, you know? That's the only thing that makes me think they didn't kill him, is it's like, wouldn't somebody have killed her as well?
But you
Or
don't
maybe
think
they were
that
like,
would...
it's too suspicious.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
But
say.
who
Like, then they'd
cares?
be
If the
giving...
option is losing trillions of dollars, I mean, I don't know. You'd think they would
I
just
don't
do it.
know. That's fair. But speaking of tinfoil people, according to the documentary, Ghislaine Maxwell was found in her New Hampshire mansion, and she was wrapping tinfoil around her phone. Like, I don't know what she thought that was going to do, but she was trying to not be found. And
you know, there's this other alternative where you can just turn your fucking phone off. People are so wild, dude. Let's turn your phone off. Don't bring it with you. There's other options, man.
So in late 2021, she goes on trial. The verdict finally comes out. She is found guilty on 5 out of 6 charges with maximum sentence of 40 years in prison for sex trafficking of a minor, transporting a minor to engage in criminal sexual activity, as well as 3 conspiracy charges related to sex trafficking. Last I read, she is in prison serving 20 years. And very recently today, this news about her, what is it that she'll get clemency if she can clear Trump's name? How the fuck is that even going to work?
So if she says no, Trump was never there. Trump never came to the island, and we never went to Mar-a-Lago, whatever story, then they're going to just let her go.
But there's so much evidence to show that he is there.
But it's a corrupt issue. Diana, our country
That's
is
what I'm
being
saying.
run by
my
like
brain can't.
Dr. Evil, dude. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's fucking insane. Also, can I just say that if you get charged with sex trafficking a minor, you should be in jail for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Life sentence.
Why the
done.
fuck is there even...
Done. 40 years serving 20? Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Can we just all agree?
Yeah.
Fucking children is bad. Can we just start there as a culture, as a society? Yeah. Can we just start there? That
selling
raping children
is bad.
Selling children, beating children, killing children. These are bad things. And the people that do them shouldn't be running the country and shouldn't be out on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people
too much to ask.
That fucking ICE should be fucking scooping up off of the streets.
That is the end of our timeline as far as up until, you know, current events. Yes, we talked about how she gets certain privileges in prison. It's fucked. No puppies.
Yeah, it's pretty upsetting. Did you ever watch the Victoria's Secret documentary?
I started it. That's one that I started and then decided I could not. But
there's a whole Epstein aspect of it. I don't know if you got that far.
Yeah, because he would tell them that he was like a agent or a talent scout or whatever.
Yeah, and he lived on Leslie Wexner's like property, and Leslie Wexner like bought an apartment in New York and like gave it to him, and that was one of the other ones that was very much believed to be a situation of like blackmail, you know, because they were like, dude, he gave him complete access to all of his money, like just insane amounts of money and no oversight on it. And it was like, well, then what the fuck did he have on this guy who at the time was running half of the mega stores that were in all the malls in the 90s, which I know now doesn't sound impressive, but for us elders, we remember
the Limited.
Oh my God. Abercrombie. Yeah. Like he owned most of those stores. Like it was insane. And then of course, obviously including Victoria's Secret. And then Epstein was using that as a way to lure young women in, was to say, oh, I'm a model scout for Victoria's Secret and you need to come to our house or you need to come to this party and, you know, you could get a job. And then he was just assaulting them.
Yeah. And actually that transitions nicely into part 2 of this episode coverage, um, about how Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell used grooming to recruit, exploit, sexually abuse minors and young women. Some of them were in their early 20s, and are also deserving, worthy of justice. So, some of the survivors, speaking of Lex, yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. In the documentary, it does go into a little bit, Les Wexner and how he he was a very, like, guarded and protected guy, but Jeffrey Epstein was able to charm him and groom him into having all that control and access to the stuff that you mentioned, Sarah. And so I really like the documentary for both the Epstein documentary and the Maxwell documentary talk about grooming and how that was such a big part of how they organized this network, this ring in the West Palm area. Some of the victims in the documentary talk about their experiences of how they first met Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and it's all the same kind of thing. They were approached by a friend in school who said, "We can make money if we go give this old guy a massage over in Palm Beach." And it turned out when they got there that it wasn't just giving him a massage. They often had to strip down naked. He would flip over and they would have to masturbate him, and then he would touch them, and so they experienced sexual abuse. The victims in the documentary, their stories, their statements were part of the investigation, in the early 2000s, and that's what when I'm thinking about, like, Alex Acosta and, like, this whole, like, well, based off the evidence, it seems like there was so much evidence and, like, and yeah, and so then the documentary also talks about how he would groom the girls into recruiting other girls, and it was
So
just
then they're
like
complicit in the crime too. So that's the other
Yes.
thing is it's like then that makes them feel like they can't come forward because they've participated in some way in the abuse of other people. And, it's that kind of thing, that defense mechanism I think that a lot of us, survivors have or victims have of like, if I tell myself that what happened to me isn't bad and I justify it for myself and others, then I don't have to process what happened to me, right? Like if I tell myself like, "Oh, I just had a good time and I made some money." That's cool. Like and I get somebody else to do it and they do it and they also think it's cool, then I don't have to process that something really fucking horrible just happened to me. And I think that's where people can get really confused in these situations, I mean, like, I think even now a lot of people don't have a strong understanding of sexual abuse, survival, and grooming, and there is a lot of this, "Look, they didn't hold a gun to your head" stuff, and it's like, but there is such a psychological part of this that is really hard for some people to understand, and especially if you're talking early 2000s, like, dude, I'm sure they could have had a mountain of evidence, and 90% of those, I'm sorry, men reading that shit were probably like, well, they went there on their own and, they chose to give a massage and they chose to take their clothes off. Like nobody was holding a gun to their head.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah,
bullshit
that's literal
mentality.
words that I think we've seen in some of the files. So, like, no one was holding a gun I think maybe one of the emails. No one was holding a
Yeah.
gun to the heads of these girls or whatever. And so exactly what you mentioned. So there was a six Haley Robson. She was 16 years old when she met Epstein, and he made her recruit other girls and created a sexual pyramid scheme in the West Palm Beach area, which again is like
Mhm.
more of a working class town. So he's taking advantage of high school girls who just want to make extra money for Christmas or who just want to make extra money, who don't have a lot,
Mhm.
who come from working class families. And he knows that. And so that's how he's able to set up like this pyramid scheme. One of the investigations, I don't remember which one it was, but Haley Robson is interviewed, and the officer interviewing her when she's like 16, 17 is telling her, like, you just admitted to participating in this crime. And she's like, I was 16.
Mhm.
Like, what about the girl who recruited me and the girl who recruited that girl? Like, it
Yeah.
just
Also, let's
I just
not
really hope that that perception is changing in the world, Sarah, of like people understanding like the
Mhm.
psychology behind these optics of young girls seemingly agreeing to things. That's it.
Well, first of all, I don't know, dude. I think yes and no that things are changing. I think the majority of people are learning and have their heads not up their asses, but there is still a large collection of our society that are fucking idiots and don't understand this yet. But I do think it also is a difference between men and women, boys and girls. It's like nobody's saying that about the boys in the Boy Scout scandal. Nobody's saying, well, those Boy Scouts, they, no one was holding a gun to their head. They didn't have to do, like, no one says that. Like, no one's blaming little boys in those situations, but we can blame girls in that situation. I also think there's something very particular that our society has a really hard time about with teenage girls.
Yeah.
Particularly teenage girls, like I really get sexualized on such a level that I think people forget they are children and
Mhm.
get victim blamed, dude. Like they just get treated like whores and sluts. And it's like, whatever happens to you is your fucking fault. And I think a lot of people probably even think that about you and me, right? And like what happened to us is it's like, well, they were 16, 17 years old and
Oh, yeah.
they knew
I've been
better
told
and
that.
he wasn't holding a gun to their head, blah, blah, blah. Like the people that understand grooming and understand sexual abuse don't see you and I differently than an 8-year-old. And we don't see other teenage girls different than an 8-year-old. We don't. I think the damage might be more severe when the kids are younger
Mm.
for different reasons. I think it is a really weird line people have for some reason about teenage girls in particular. And it's the same line that people have about LGBT. Oh my god, my brain today. I'm just say it's queer. The same idea people have about like queer young men, right? Is it's that same like idea that it's their fault somehow, that they're
Yeah.
amoral, like that they are naturally sinful, seductive creatures. And it's like, what the fuck are we talking about? These are still
Yeah.
kids.
When he was charged in 2006 for that single felony count, the news coverage talked about the victims as
Mhm.
underage prostitutes. What the fuck? There's no
Oh,
such thing as an underage prostitute. That's that's a crime.
that's
That's a crime.
That's called being trafficked. That's
That's called being trafficked.
literally just being trafficked. I also
Yes.
feel like you still see though where they're calling his victims underage women or
Stop
young
it.
women. It's like children. They're called children.
Children,
That's it. They're called
kids,
children
children,
and young women. That's
girls.
what it is. Because some of them were
Yeah.
young women, some of them were over
Yeah.
18, but like they're still just girls, dude. Like they're just kids. And you should call them as such. Well, because you're also like softening it all. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, who are you softening this for? Like, who are you trying to make this sound less awful for?
The amount of times that underage women is said in the documentary was very infuriating. And I don't know if you saw this, but I did post something on Pod Save America's one of their recent Instagram posts because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Pod Save
Mhm.
America. It's three white dudes talking about politics, but like, I'm a fan. But I was very disappointed that not all the hosts, but there was one host in particular that kept saying underage women. And I left a comment being like, you guys claim to be like this independent news media company. Why are you using
Mhm.
language from news companies that aren't independent? Like stop saying underage women, call them kids. They haven't
Yeah.
responded. But yeah, I think it is important to call that shit out. Like there's no such thing as an underage prostitute. There's no such thing as an underage woman. A 16-year-old is not an underage woman.
Yeah.
It's
Doesn't
yeah,
exist. There's no such
doesn't
thing.
exist. I will say that it is estimated that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had about 500 victims. There is absolutely no way that we could talk about them all or even know what happened to them all.
Do you
I
believe this
do
whole thing that some of them got murdered and buried at Mar-a-Lago? Have you seen this whole thing.
That is literally some of the stuff that I reference in my Substack, of the evidence of like, yes, I do. I really do.
Fucking
And I
get
think that
out
should be
there.
investigated.
Get out there.
Investigate. What? Okay, so here we go.
Here's my concern. Here's my concern. I'm concerned Trump is going to die before ever being held accountable for any of this. And the only caveat, the only thing that would be okay about that is he would be dead, which I'm looking forward to. It's going to be a good day.
Pretty busted.
He's looking busted. Rough. He is looking rough into it.
So this is the file number EFTA 01660679. Complainant reported participating in orgies that some girls went missing, rumored to have been murdered and buried at the facility. Complainant reported being threatened by Trump's then head of security that if she ever talked of what went on there or who she saw, she would, it says he would, but I think they're missing it in us. She would end up as fertilizer for the back 9 holes like the other cunts. Complainant claims to have video of high-profile sex parties, dealings with cartels, and having witnessed Robin Leach strangle a young girl to death at a party. Investigate this shit. Investigate this.
So I'm fascinated by the headlines I've been seeing that other countries, for some reason, have access to the unredacted Epstein files, which I don't understand why they have the unredacted versions, and that other countries are opening investigations into a bunch of this shit. And so I'm kind of like, obviously some of it's probably because there is an international aspect to it, right? So they could be going after people in their own backyard. But I just want to be like, can you just release them? Can you just send us the unredacted versions? And because here's the other thing, when they fucking, released a bunch of the Epstein files last week, now there's this whole scandal that they didn't blur out victims' faces and they didn't block out victims' names. And, they breached all of these safety and, just rights of the victims to protect them and their identity. But they sure as fuck went out of their way to cover up the names of all the people who were sending and receiving the emails. And it's like,
yeah,
what the fuck are we doing? Like, if you were emailing Epstein after his original prosecution for being a sex abuser, and you were saying creepy shit about kids, why are we protecting you? Like, why is your name blocked out? This isn't hearsay. This is literally your words. So why is that protected?
Exactly.
Duh, Diana.
Great question. So, Sarah, I guess, okay, so my question for you, because this is something I've really been thinking a lot about, is before this last week when I just went down this rabbit hole, yes, I supported releasing the files. But then what? Like, what do we now? Like, what do we do after the files are released? I 100% feel that we should keep calling for all the files to be released. 100%. But we have some now. So like, what is next? Like, after we are done calling for the Epstein files to be released.
The Epstein investigations is what's next, dude. That's what's fucking next. Like, like what is the point of being like, okay, here's a bunch of evidence that we did of this horrible shit. That's not the end of it. And that's what's crazy about Trump coming out and saying the American public needs to move on. And it's like, what are you talking about?
You are saying everything with that sentence.
Nobody was clamoring to get these files to then do nothing with it. The point of getting the files is to hold you pieces of shit accountable for what you did to these fucking kids. That's the whole point. It's not to entertain us.
No, exactly. I think that everyone who has been named so far, should put out a statement explaining themselves. I don't think that they should just be silent.
Ooh, what do you think? So what do you think? What do you think's going to happen with the Clintons at the end of the month? Because you know what? Trump had them pass that fucking bill or law or whatever, that former presidents cannot be prosecuted, right? Which would extend to Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton could come out and be like, listen, motherfuckers, yeah, I did it. I did this, this, and this, but you know who else did it? Boom, 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 boom. And I know I'm wishing on a star beyond a galaxy far, far away, but the way that I want the fucking Clintons to just be like, here's the can of gasoline, go. Like the way that I want them to burn it to the fucking ground, and I don't think they will, but I'm holding out a little grain of sand of hope, man, because he's got nothing to lose. They're fucking old, dude. Like what it, you know?
Then their name, their legacy, Chelsea Clinton
Fuck
and
it.
her, like, you know, they so regarding
Burn it to the ground. God damn
Bill
it.
Clinton. So presidents are only protected from if it's related to, like, if it was related to their presidential duties. So could Bill Clinton be like, oh, well, I was only there for a presidential meeting or whatever. Yeah, but that doesn't mean he gets to just like rape women and kids, you know? So like, it should not protect him. And it shouldn't protect Trump either, because
But also, if you were Clinton, wouldn't you be like, how did I get impeached over getting a blowjob? And this motherfucker is in the Epstein files and nothing's happening. Also, Monica Lewinsky deserves a fucking apology from the nation, because you want to talk about grooming.
Yeah.
Sure, she was over 18.
Fuck Bill Clinton.
But clearly she was groomed by that man. Yeah, fuck Bill Clinton. Just because you played a saxophone one time does not make you a cool guy.
The documentary for sure tries to like clear his name. I think it's bullshit. I think that he was part of it too. I really do.
Well, and then the director of the stupid Melania movie is also now in some of the photos, which is the least shocking thing ever.
Yeah. I want to say this is going to take some time. We're not going to fix the Epstein files issue overnight.
There is so much truly nightmare horror movie shit happening in the stuff that's been released. And that's the stuff that made it through the redactions.
Oh, I wanted to say, because you were talking about other countries having access to unredacted files. As of today, February 9th, 2026, members of Congress do have access to the unredacted files.
Oh, that's
but
right.
They have to go. It's like a library system. So they have to like reserve computer lab time. They have to like
tell me that nerds have made like a goddamn sign up Excel sheet where they're taking fucking shifts and they're like documenting stuff. There's half of them that aren't monsters. So like that half should have created an Excel sheet of like sign up times. You know what I mean? And it could be like, I'm going to read this page to this page on Monday, and Joe's going to read this, you know what I'm saying? And work through it.
Yes. That's a great idea.
Can their staffers do it for them?
I don't know.
Or do you have to be the member of Congress? I'm sure they're working on it. I shouldn't say that. I hope that they're working on it. But I do think it's important that people are somewhat aware of the severity of it, because it's so easy to just kind of be flippant about it, I think, if you don't understand the severity of it. Yeah, I mean, dude, talking about babies and shit. Like, it's,
oh my God.
It's fucking, like, truly. And then my brain goes, God, remember when we thought all these people were crazy about Pizzagate? It's like, oh God, was Pizzagate not totally wrong? Like, was it kind of true? And it just, oh my God, it's too much for the human mind to comprehend, but that doesn't mean that we get to turn a blind eye to it. It just means that we have a lot of work to do to process all of this. And I think it is important to also, you did a very good job, Diana, I think, kind of going through that timeline, because it's like, yeah, I'm aware of a lot of stuff, but not all of it, kind of that timeline of how we got to where we are now. And I think it is important for people to understand, like, this is not just about one dude. It's so much more. It's like so much bigger, and involves, unfortunately, some of the most powerful people in our country
who are not in jail and are still alive and could be held to account
and are making billions of dollars.
So if you want to read more if you want to read like my full timeline and more information about the victims and some select files. There are some that I referenced in this recording on there. You can find that at dianam90.substack.com. Okay, well, until next time, hug people if touch is your thing. Otherwise, maybe say some nice things to people and yourself, and just do your best to stay afloat. Eat some soup, drink a milkshake. I don't know, Sarah, what brings you joy? Pet a dog.
You just talked about a lot of liquids. Yes, pet a dog. Gotta pet that dog. Pet animals. Get active in your community, even if it's not about this, it's about anything. Like, just give back. It'll make your heart feel better. And, be mindful that you may be, or someone else in your life may be, a survivor of sexual abuse who is very much triggered and struggling with the Epstein files and what's coming out and how people are and are not reacting to them. Because it is really hard to come forward, and it's terrifying to come forward, even when your abuser is just a dorky English teacher that people don't like. I can't imagine coming forward when it's the president of the United States of America, and then to have a third of the country vilify you. Like, it's incomprehensible. And I think it's really impacting a lot of survivors. And I know it's impacting me in ways that I'm not really probably fully processing. But so I would just say, if you are a survivor, take care of yourself, take breaks. If you have a loved one who is a survivor, maybe check in on them, because it's heavy times.
Okay. That is where we are going to stop today's episode. There's a lot to take in, not only in information, but also processing the information. Some of it doesn't feel like it's real. Some of what we talked about felt like it belongs in a movie. So homework is to reflect on 1996 through 2021, 25 years. For me, it was helpful to do this timeline and to think about where I was. Some of my formative years coincided with certain dates in the Epstein case. And in 2021, as I mentioned in the recording, I had my aha moment in the late winter, early spring of 2021, months after Epstein's reported death and months before Maxwell's trial. And I wasn't ready then, and I haven't been ready to really face the files and take them in and absorb, really think about what it means for me in my life. And I know that sounds maybe weird to say, but it is just feels impossible to accept that this is the reality, and I'm just to carry on. And I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. So this is part one of, for all of us, is to really orient ourselves to the case and take in the information. So until next time, try to do something that makes you smile, take care of each other, protect kids. Fuck ICE. We'll see you soon.